Our next speaker, Robert Sikes.
Thanks, man. You know, it's kind of strange. Normally when I stand on a stage in front of this many people, I'm half naked and wearing posing trunks. I'm going to spare y'all that today, though. So, I'm sorry. So my title is Escape the Diet Confusion, How to Get Unstuck, Unfeigned, and Unleashed. Believe it or not, that was not, unfeigned was not the word I was trying to use, but the powers that be suggested I use something more kid-friendly. Unfeigned works, though. It was used widely in the 1800s. It means genuine, sincere, and authentic, which works for this presentation. So, to begin, who am I? I'm Robert Sikes, lifetime natural competitive bodybuilder. Been bodybuilding for 10 years, been strict keto for 5, and I've had the opportunity to speak here at this conference for the past 3 years and be a part of this wonderful community, and I could not be more blessed for it. So thank all of y'all for being here. This was a before and after kind of when I was eating carbs and following a standard bro diet approach. I got up to 30% body fat, 230 pounds, and I'm 5'8", although Crystal says I'm 5'7", and that's what I looked like. I was unhealthy. I was eating 6 meals a day, eating every 2 hours, chicken, rice, all that boring stuff, and then I figured there had to be a better way. Kind of stumbled upon keto by happenstance, and the rest is history. In the past, when I've been up here, I've kind of explained how I made that transition, how I manipulated my macronutrients to achieve that look, get down to that low body fat percentage, and I took it a very technical way. I was just explaining how I did it and the specifics behind it. But being up here for 3 years now, I've noticed that there's a lot of overarching themes that people kind of lose sight of the longer they follow a diet. So whether you're new to keto or have been doing it for years, there's just some good, friendly reminders that I'd like to take an opportunity with this presentation to kind of throw out there. So the dichotomy of keto optimization, bioindividuality versus the special snowflake syndrome. We're all individuals. We can all agree that we all have unique instances where certain things work better for us than others. There's no blanket cookie-cutter statement that works for everyone. However, there are some commonalities. You know, I want to touch on those because I feel like if you've got a good common structure, a good foundation, you can build from that, experiment, and tweak things for you as an individual. So these next few slides are going to be super, super basic, simple pie charts, just kind of recapping what keto is and its core from a macronutrient standpoint. High fat ratio, you know, the standard is like 75% fat. You know, we're producing more ketones. Most people in this room know what this pie chart looks like. It's nothing new and exciting. You're producing ketones for fuel, fat oxidation, et cetera, et cetera. You feel better. You've got that mental clarity. You got that ketone high. You're performing well. The high protein ratio, now this is what I was doing when I was in the bro dieting approach to bodybuilding before I started keto. Super high protein intake, and you know, when you start having low carbohydrates and high protein and low fat, you know, gluconeogenesis is not really an efficient process for producing energy. So I never really felt great. A lot of competitors, you know, that last month of their show prep, they're walking around like zombies because they're inefficiently creating energy for themselves, and it's just not optimal. And the food's boring. I mean, chicken breast with no seasoning and no fat is just no flavor. High carbohydrate ratio, this is my last boring slide here. This is what we're all coming from probably, you know, addiction to carbohydrates, too much sugar, you know, food comas. It's just not a good optimal place. So I'm glad that most of y'all are no longer in this pie chart here. I want to talk a little bit about metabolic flexibility. This is one of those buzzwords that everybody's talking about right now, and I'm probably going to get a little controversial with these next few slides, but bear with me. I got a method to my madness. So metabolic flexibility has simply been able to have a dual fuel source and be able to optimize with fat, optimize with carbs, protein, basically using what your body is intaking efficiently. When you're coming from a only eating carbohydrate source, heavily processed foods, and you switch over to keto, you're going to feel better, your body's going to respond better, it's better for your longevity, better, you know, way to mitigate any long-term health concerns. It's highly encouraged. I encourage everybody to be metabolically flexible in that sense. Go from the carbs to the high fat. What about the other way around? What about from high fat to high carbs? Is beneficial to have metabolic flexibility in that regard? Well, less encouraged so, and here's why. There's a couple arguments for metabolic flexibility in this regard, and one is that there's going to be a zombie apocalypse, and if we've got all the fat stores taken away, we got to be able to live on carbs and bread and all that stuff, which I think is unlikely, and I just wouldn't recommend it. Then they point to, well, if you hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, we would eat fruits. Fruits are in abundance, veggies are in abundance. We should eat whatever the world has to offer. But if you look at those then and now pictures, you can see that the fruits and the veggies that we have available to us now are nothing like they were back in the day. So it's not really comparing the same thing anymore. What about calories? All this talk about macronutrient ratios, pie charts, metabolic flexibility. What about calories? This is another controversial topic. Do calories count? All that jazz. Well, we're all pretty much in agreement here that the whole calories in, calories out theory is bogus. There's a lot more variables at play than just the calories you consume and the calories you burn. So looking at that solely as the reason and the way to improve your composition just doesn't make sense. However, it's pretty much impossible to quantify how many calories you're actually consuming. How can one individual know with certainty what they're consuming and what they're burning? The Fitbit trackers, the Oura rings, they're all good. They give you some baseline, but everybody is bio-individual, and there's just not an accurate way to come to this number. Same thing with the calories you're consuming. We've got a food product, the keto brick, and I learned a lot about food companies when we started producing that. There's a 20% variability. Like you can skew things 20% one way or the other with that nutrition label. A lot of the stuff you're eating, it's not necessarily accurate. So it's hard to count calories in that regard. And there's so many other factors at play, like our ancestors weren't using macro trackers. I don't know any caveman that had MyFitnessPal. So does it make sense to count calories? I argue that everything counts. It's not all about the calories. It's not all about any one single thing. So many people want to paint a picture and subdivide things that matter in their life. Their calories, their hormones, their genetics. And they're like, okay, this matters sometimes. It all matters. It all matters. So the more holistic approach you take to your nutrition and your life, the more results you'll see from it. So just using myself as a case study real quick, when I prep for a competition, the only variable that I really manipulate is my caloric intake. I play around with the ratios of where those calories are coming from, but I'm not changing my genetics. My hormones are changing, but as a result of all the other factors at play. So the only contributing factor to what I'm doing to change my composition is caloric manipulation. So to say that they don't matter is not true. They do matter, but we have to have a holistic approach to how we approach them. So let's talk about metabolism. I'm going to get a little technical with these next few slides because metabolism is something that not enough people talk about, but it's incredibly important. And I want to kind of give y'all some big picture looks on here. So calorie deficit and metabolism. When I'm prepping for a show, when any of you are trying to lose body fat, one of the common techniques is to cut your calories down a little bit and drop your calories. You have to be strategic in how you do that because as your calories drop, your body's smart. Like it's going to see that, okay, the fuel we're taking in is decreasing. So I'm going to down-regulate what my body's doing so I can conserve that fuel. So your metabolism is going to gradually decrease as your calories decrease. And if you do this right, there's a lot of variables at play here, but we're just talking kind of high level here, your body fat is also going to drop down. So there's a strategic way to approach this. I didn't put this let me go back here. I didn't put this in the slide, but when your calories get super low, it's kind of handy to throw in some caloric refeed days to kind of keep your metabolism jumping up. That's a whole other conversation, but that's not black and white. Just kind of give you a high-level view here. So this is something that's near and dear to my heart because I see it happen all the time with my clients, with other people. They're wanting to lose weight. The first thing they do is they chop off 500 calories, 1,000 calories, and they think that's going to work. What happens is their metabolism starts shutting down. Their body fat may see a little decrease initially, but it's not sustainable. You can't go super low on your calories without any recourse to that, especially for long periods of time. It's real bad with the female clients. I've got people that aren't even working with me, and they'll say, my coach dropped my calories. I'm down underneath 1,000 calories right now, and they've maintained that low caloric intake for years and years and years, and their metabolism is basically shut down, like it's fighting back. And the worst thing about it is when you get that low in your calories and your metabolism shut down, it's really hard to repair that. Like it takes time to repair that damage done. So your body will start taking what little food you are giving it and say, look, we don't know if we're going to get any more, So let's turn that to fat automatically and keep it for longer storage because we don't know if we're having any more to come. So these poor people, they'll drop their calories way low. They'll be starving. They'll be hungry. They'll be hangry. And then they get fatter. So it's like not a good thing at all. So if your coach recommends you go below 1,000 calories, just fire them right there because they're not knowing what they're talking about. Maintenance. Now let's talk about maintenance a little bit. So maintenance is basically you found your caloric threshold, your metabolic threshold, everything's kind of humming along real good. You're feeling good, but nothing's really improving, nothing's really getting worse. You kind of reached that homeostatic point. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, you're kind of on autopilot. Your body's working well, your brain's working well, everything's going good. But me personally, I like to see an uptick in my performance. I like to know that I'm working to improve myself rather than just sustain and maintain where I'm currently at. So I don't like the whole maintenance phase. Like I need to either have a specific goal that I'm striving towards. So caloric surplus and metabolism. You know, if you're increasing your calories, your metabolism in suit is going to also increase as well. This allows you to have more fuel coming in so you can build more muscle tissue, which is good. It's going to help repair the metabolic damage you've done from being in a low caloric state. But this is not, you know, all sunshine and rainbows as well. There's a cap to everything. I did a 6,000 calorie experiment, and I was originally going to do it for 6 months, 6,000 calories for 6 months, and I wound up doing it for 3 months. But I noticed an increase in my metabolism during that time. Before the 6,000 calories, my threshold, my maintenance was around 3,000 calories. Afterwards, I was humming along at about 3,500 calories. So roughly, I was able to increase my threshold, my metabolic and caloric threshold by about 500 calories, give or take. And again, all this is kind of taking into account everything that's changing. This is just, I know calories, people get so uptight about talking about calories, I think it's the only thing that matters. A lot of things matter. This is just one of the variables at play. So, cons of caloric surplus. If you're in a caloric surplus for too long, I mean, you're going to have a cap on your metabolic threshold increasing. Your body fat is going to start increasing as well. And then what you see there is your metabolism kind of flatlines and your body fat just keeps trending upwards. So once you've reached that point, you'll know that, okay, I need to tap the brakes on how much I'm consuming. So this is a graphic I kind of want to just demonstrate. I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this slide here because I think it's important. As people, it takes time to change your body's composition. It takes time to change your metabolism, your composition, how you're looking, how you're feeling. And people don't have a very long-term view to their caloric and nutritional manipulations. They try and do things, they change every month, and their body never has time to adapt and change and suit. So this first part of the graph here shows my calories dropping down, metabolism trending downward slowly as well, but my body fat's also going down. Then I'll do like a reverse diet. If anybody is familiar with reverse diet, basically you start increasing your calories, increasing your fuel, and your body's able to Your body fat goes up a little bit, but not near as high as it did when you first started. So you're able to increase your metabolism, increase your caloric threshold, yet your body fat doesn't get as high as it was when you first started. So when you do decide to do another caloric deficit, cut down, lose some body fat, you have a better starting position. You have a higher threshold for where you're starting and a lower body fat from where you're starting. So you've got more runway, so to speak, from which you can manipulate these variables. So all this talk about calories, macros, metabolic flexibility, it begs the question of, should you even track in the first place? Should you be more instinctive with your manipulations? Or should you track everything to the T with your macronutrient trackers, et cetera, et cetera? Well, if you're happy with how you look and how you're feeling, then don't change a damn thing. Keep doing what you're doing. You know, it's obviously working for you. If you're not happy with what you're doing, start establishing a baseline. You have to know what your body's doing. You have to have some data to know what you're doing to work with here. I mean, think of yourself like a science experiment. People don't go into a scientific study with like no information. You have to give yourself some variables to play with. You have to know your body. You know, track your macros, track your measurements. All this stuff is really good for you to know where your current foundation is. Not knowing, not tracking, and suffering from paralysis analysis is depressing. Learning gives you hope. Get excited about the potential of changing your body with the right tools in your tool shed. All right, so I want to take this big picture approach and really drive it home with these next few slides here. This is a quick fix versus long game thinking. And it goes beyond just the macronutrient manipulations, the body composition, the health. It goes beyond all of that. People like to, like I said, segment their lives into different buckets. I try to have an all-inclusive, holistic view for how I live my life. I want everything to be symbiotic in nature because everything will be much more efficient and run much more smoothly if it benefits the whole. So with regard to nutrition, get more deeply adapted. You know, being in ketosis for 1 month is different than being in ketosis for 5 years. Experiment, but be patient. You know, I'm all about self-experimentation. I've experimented on all kinds of things. I've done high protein, I've done high fat, I've tried it all. You know, before I was doing keto, I tried 15 different diets on a yearly basis just to see what would work. So have a long-term view on how you do these experimentations. There's a lot of CKD, TKD, carb ups, all that stuff going on right now. And I'm not here, it's not my place to judge what anybody's putting in their mouth, you know, more power to you. But give your body, give your brain, give yourself time to get deeply adapted so you can speak on how those experiments are affecting you with intelligence. Like if you're bouncing around to the next thing every few minutes, every few months, you're never gonna have any foundation to learn from. No cheat days, this is a lifestyle. You're not a little puppy. You know, this idea of cheat days just, it makes me mad. Because when I was following a carbohydrate-based diet back in the day before I started keto, you know, we'd prep for a competition, we'd get super lean, we'd be all proud of ourselves, then we'd go off and we'd like just crash some hardcore IHOP. I spent $40 on IHOP on the regular. And that's not good, you know? Like your body is important, your health is important. You've got to have a holistic approach to what you're feeding yourself because what you're feeding yourself determines how your quality of life is shaped going forward. Your body's capable of a lot more than you give it credit for, y'all. If there's one thing I've learned from doing these competition preps, pushing myself to the limit, not being, you know, getting a good night's sleep, having, you know, business, I don't get good sleep anyways, but all these factors matter. But my body has been put through the ringer in a lot of different ways from a competition prep standpoint and just life in general. And your body is capable of so much more than you give it credit for. So don't close the door on what you're doing before you give it time to figure out what it's truly doing. Your level of adaptation gets better and better and better. Like I said, I've been strict keto now for 5 years, and my ability to process ketones, process fat, make that into an efficient fuel source is significantly better now than it was after 1 month of being on the diet, of 1 year of being on the diet. Give it the time it takes to truly tap into its full potential. As regards to the training, a lot of people ask me about training technique, and to be completely honest with y'all, I'm not a wizard when it comes to training. Ben Pekulski's in the building somewhere. That guy's a wizard when it comes to training. He knows his stuff. He can tell you how to move one pinky finger and how it's going to affect the hamstring as you're training hamstrings. Like, I'm not that good, you know? But I go back to basics with my training. You know, I lift hard, I lift heavy, I practice progressive overload, which, quick little recap on what that is. Basically, you want to be stimulating the muscles in some additional way every single time you train. That doesn't necessarily mean you're lifting more weight every time you train. Maybe it's more time under tension. Maybe it's less of a rest set. Maybe it's more frequency. Find some way to stimulate your body, your muscles a little bit more each time you go in the gym, each time you do anything in life. That's going to give your body reason to improve, reason to adapt, reason to get better. Career and business. This is kind of off on a tangent here, but since we're talking about long-term thinking versus quick fix, I want to touch on this. There's been a lot of companies coming into the keto space. There's been a lot of people wanting to build a business in the keto space, which is freaking awesome. You know, it's cool for me to see people coming into this space with excitement. I was just talking with somebody right before this presentation. They've started a granola business. A little girl started a granola business. She had some questions on how to scale that up and build. So it's super cool for me to be able to have the opportunity to tell her what I've learned in building our business. I'm happy to see all these companies coming to the table, but I feel like a lot of that comes at a cost because people are coming in with this quick fix mentality of how to make a quick buck, and it's diluting the quality of this space, which I don't like seeing. Yeah. So legacy is greater than currency. These are all like little bullet point views on business and how what's worked for me and I truly believe will work for other people. Legacy is greater than currency. I don't do anything for the dollar. Like, I care about every single one of y'all. I care about having the opportunity to stand up on the stage and speak to you as equals, as friends, see what your journey's been like, see where your journey's going. Like, that's what matters to me. Do the work that you believe in and can sustain forever. I put in long hours in the office, but I'm excited about it. I'm excited to be part of this community. I'm excited for what the future holds. I'm excited for every single one of y'all. It's cool to be able to see people grow together as one. So do something that you have passion for. Do something that you're excited to wake up on and just put your head down and grind, even if you only gotten 4 hours of sleep. Don't buy your Instagram followers. It's a pet peeve of mine. Don't be fake. Don't put up a mask. You don't put up a mask, you never have to take it off. The world owes you nothing and add more value than you take. You know, that's 2 principles that I've tried to apply in every action I've done in business. You know, none of y'all owe me anything. I'm grateful to be up here. I'm grateful for this opportunity, and I care about y'all, and I should reflect that in my business decisions. Relationships. This is where I'm really driving it home here. Relationships are the most important thing. It's the only thing that really matters. The only thing that we can hang our hat on at the end of the day is relationships. My relationship with y'all relationship with me, my relationship with my best friend there, you know, my wife. I mean, Crystal and I started this business. We got into this space before it was cool. We were so broke. I was like $30,000 in credit card debt. And for me to go from that to this and even have people give me the time of day to like talk to them is the most humbling thing in the world. Like, I truly can never extend the gratitude that I have deep down inside for every single one of y'all. Work on your relationships every day. Work on the people in your life. That's what matters. And to me, I don't know, Crystal, I wish she was up here talking, but she didn't like speaking in public. But she's a sweetheart. She's an angel. What she does and how she presents herself, I mean, what she's done to help me in the business and just help this community grow, like, I owe her my everything. So, how to get unstuck, unfeigned, and unleashed. You work harder, you work longer, you fall in love with the process, and you do it every damn day. My promise to you is this. I can't promise that my techniques up here, my metabolism manipulations, my caloric recommendations, my macronutrient recommendations are going to be the best thing for you. I feel pretty confident in them because they've worked well for me and the people I've worked with. I can't promise you that the next speaker that comes up here and has this, you know, amazing take on, you know, this cholesterol or whatever. All these things matter, but I can't promise you that any one thing any of us say is going to be the best thing for you as an individual. What I can promise you is that if you do these things with a long game approach, you figure out what you can build upon, you attack it every single day with passion, you're going to see results from that. My promise to you is that while everybody else is changing on a day-to-day basis, a week-to-week basis, I'm going to be right here putting in one more rep, one more year of being strict keto is going to go by, one more year of having an awesome relationship with my wife is going to go by, and I'm going to get better and better and better, and I'm going to enjoy the process, and I'm so grateful to have y'all enjoy it with me. So thank you. I finished kind of quick. I don't know if I've got time. I'm assuming I got time for questions. I don't know. We're good to go. If there are any questions, I don't know who's orchestrating the questions. Hello. We have a taker.
Yeah, I'm a taker. Hi,
How's it going, man?
Dave Garcia here. And first, I want to congratulate you and Crystal for building a successful business. You guys have been amazing to watch, from cooking out of your kitchen to having a facility in shape.
Thank you.
I'm down, as of this week, 146 pounds. And so my question is finding the sweet spot between continually to build muscle but continue to lose the weight as well. So I've hit that plateau where I've lost a lot of weight, but I still know I need to maintain the muscle and build muscle, but still lose the fat, in my process of working out and doing that every day.
Great question. All right, I'm glad you asked this. So, little technical here. Let me get a little technical. I always tell my clients, you can definitely build muscle and lose fat at the same time, but they kind of compete for one another. So I recommend having one primary goal, and then anything that comes as a result of that secondary goal is just, icing on top. Keto icing, of course. But you look at losing body fat. Again, there's a lot more to it than calories, but you need to be in a energy deficit to be able to lose that body fat. You need to be in an energy surplus to be able to have the fuel to build the muscle tissue and trying to build muscle. So what I recommend doing is kind of cycling through and having phases, like that one diagram that showed like a progression.
Right.
Like have a period of time where your primary goal is building muscle. Capitalize on that, maximize that. The more muscle you have, the more of a metabolic flexibility you're going to have, the more of ability to lose that body fat you're going to have. So capitalize on that. And then when transitioning into a losing body fat goal, you know, we're all in luck because ketones are incredibly muscle sparing. So we're not likely to lose much muscle. When I get down to 3% body fat from my shows, I actually haven't lost hardly any muscle. Maybe a little bit, but not much at all. And that's largely because of the ketogenic diet. The ketones are very muscle sparing. So don't worry about losing muscle as much when you're trying to lose body fat, but don't expect a whole lot of muscle gains when your primary goal is to lose body fat. It's better, in my opinion, to have one of those primary goals that don't compete for each other and then just maximize on that. And then once you've reached that goal, you can transition. So for you, as an example, build as much muscle as you can, train hard, train heavy. But if your primary goal is to lose body fat, don't lose sleep over you not hitting a new PR every couple weeks.
Right, and I think that's what a lot of people struggle with. They're always looking at the scale, and it doesn't bounce the way they like it to. And so, thank you.
Yeah, and on the scale, that's why it's, take pictures, take measurements, look at what you're pushing in the gym. Right. Any variables you can give yourself to look at and stick with besides just the scale weight alone is huge, man.
Right. Thank you.
You bet.
Yeah. Good job, man.
What up, man?
Good morning.
Howdy.
So I have a question for you, because you talked about keeping, always having a goal for yourself and always being working towards something. And for me, I'm coming to the end of the weight loss part of my journey, which is always where I screw up and always kind of where things go wrong. So I know I need to think about setting new goals. What advice do you have for moving forward with finding out what comes next?
It's interesting. When I get really lean for a show, after the show's over, I know that my next goal is to build muscle and capitalize on that so that the next show I do, I look better. But it's hard when I've worked so hard for so long to lose body fat and get leaner to see that scale creep back up again. Even if I know a lot of it's muscle, it's hard to see my body fat get a little bit higher. It's hard to see those things, So for you having lost as much, I did on my podcast a couple weeks ago, almost 300 pounds. Freaking awesome, man. It's hard to see that scale go back up. Yeah, that deserves a round of applause for sure. But it takes time, man. It honestly just takes time. Like, it took me, I think, 3 years of competing to fully embrace the fact that this is a cycle. This is a lifestyle. That's why you have to approach this from a lifestyle, not a diet standpoint. Like, be excited about where you're at in that journey and maximize that every step of the way. Be excited about the pounds you drop, the fat you lose when you're trying to lose body fat, and be amped up about the new PRs you hit in the gym. Embrace everything as it comes wholeheartedly, man.
Thank you. Thanks, John. Thanks, John. Thanks, Robert.
What's up, Robert?
How's it going, man?
Hey, so you touched on sleep for a second, and I think all of us kind of know how important sleep is, right, for all things.
This is a bad question for me, man.
I'm sorry. So whenever we talked the other day at the meetup, I know you have an Oura Ring, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, and as a business owner, I know that your mind's probably constantly going, right? So I just kind of want to know, my mind is similar. I don't own a business, but what are just some things that you utilize to like shut off your mind, at nighttime?
All right, so that is tricky, man, because there'll be times we have like a keto brick launch coming up, or I've got a show coming up, or just something's crazy going on with the business, big investment, and I can't turn that off when I know I'm supposed to be sleeping. The best thing for me, this is gonna sound super masculine, get ready, is I go make myself some tea, I put on some Native American flute music,
Okay.
I sit in my bed, I sit there and talk with Crystal, talk about something outside of business, talk about how someday we're gonna have a cabin, we'll grow some little kids or something like that, and just disconnect for a little bit. And that, to me, I'm able to fall asleep.
Okay.
So talk about kids and drink some tea.
I don't have
American flute music.
any of the
Can't forget that
above,
one.
but I'll try the music.
Yeah.
So, thanks, man.
Uh-oh. It's going to make me laugh right here.
No. This is a serious question. Normally when I interview you, I try to make you laugh. So you talked about the caloric kind of downflow as you start to drip that and adding in refeed days. What's a good baseline for doing that? Like once every 2 weeks, once every week? What do you usually recommend?
All right, so I'm going to use myself as an example here, but it's pretty applicable. It's like when I'm doing a prep, I'm going from, 14, 15% body fat down to 3 or 4% body fat. And I do it over the course of 4 to 5 months. I'm probably going to do 6 months on my next prep just to make it even longer. You got to be gradual with your cutting process. I don't start introducing the refeeds. These are keto caloric refeeds. They're just to increase in fat and protein. I start titrating those in during that last month. So once my calories are very low, once I'm pretty lean, like definitely sub 10% body fat for me, and I start increasing those, because I could tell at that point my metabolism starts slowing down pretty considerably. I feel really good mentally, but I feel a little bit drained physically. So I'll start titrating those in, and I feel amazing. Like a lot of people, like all this, it's pretty cool, man. Like you have like a 40% increase in calories from baseline of fat and protein in the evening. The next morning when you wake up, you got veins popping, you're jacked, you're ready to attack the day. You lift hard, you lift heavy, and your body's been given the boost it needs. So that's what I would do, something like that.
All right, thanks. Great job, Robert.
Appreciate you, man.